Trevor Noah, former host of The Daily Show, he stops by to talk about the state of politics in America. It's a great conversation where, among other things, he'll address his thoughts on the media's growing addiction to chaos.
Is he all right? Watch as the presumptive Republican presidential nominee celebrates a deadly domestic terrorist attack he helped incite on the United States Capitol, as he openly shows contempt for and toward his own supporters standing in front of him, as he rambles on and on and on and on about sharks, of all things, in rants so bizarre that Unhinged doesn't come close to capturing it.
He just came up. Are the teleprompters not working, sir? Not even a little bit. Great job. And then I don't pay the company that does it, right? And then I end up with a story Trump doesn't pay. I don't pay contractors that do a job. And that's a job. That's a job.
He's already been adjudicated a rapist and a business fraud. And he's still, obviously the Republican nominee. I mean, that's why it puts the media in a bind, doesn't it? Because
it really does. It really does. Because in many ways, I've always said that Trump is like a black light on American democracy, in that he's exposed many of the parts of America's system that people have for a long time taken for granted or ignored. And I mean, when it comes to the media, they really are in a strange situation, because now, the person who they in many ways propped up is now in a position where they have to treat him with a level of reverence that doesn't really, work in an environment where somebody is on trial for all the things he's on trial for. So now it's really going to be a test of the media. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know that they're fully up to it, because they're always battling, their unquenched thirst for ratings with their need to actually be good journalists. So it's going to be an interesting time.
Well, that's why I was so thrilled to have you on this morning. We had a listener recently, a caller, just say, I only go to comedians to get my news now. I only go to late night comedians. And I hate to say it, Trevor, but you and all the rest of the late night comedians are doing a better job, telling the truth, holding Trump's feet to the fire, talking about how ridiculous this all is. I mean, isn't that that's kind of?
Well, I wouldn't be quick to take credit. I don't think as comedians it's that we're like better people or anything. I think it's because we've been hamstrung by the fact that comedy requires truth. Good comedy requires truth, and and what that's meant is, it's a lot of the comedians who are looking at the truth of these situations and commenting on them, and so I think the situation that America's media or the news has been in is that they've created this false idea that being a fair journalist is being a journalist who says the same amount of things about both sides of an equation. And I mean, even that part of it alone is strange. America is one of the few countries where every issue is divided into two sides, when I think there are far more layers and far more spectrums to any political issue than we give it credit for. So I don't think the system is designed for much honesty or much objectivity. But comedy has always been about the truth. It's just about people telling the truth. And if you're not telling the truth, the audience doesn't laugh. So it's a really dangerous and honest space to be in, which is why I think not everyone can do it, and which is why comedians both love and hate it.
And I think that's why, it was the joke that not only killed what was heard around the world at the Oscars when Jimmy Kimmel said to Trump, isn't it past your jail time? It's but it blows.
That joke, there's so few jokes that make you laugh out loud. That joke was fantastic. I mean, we laughed so hard watching that joke. It was amazing.
Well, because, Trevor, here what we're seeing, what's happening in the courtroom. And it's like the 8th grade boy in all of us, isn't it? It's like David Pecker. There's Pecker jokes. There's he's farting. Like, it's just, and then, but, I want to get your take on, should they keep putting these microphones outside? Because then he goes outside and just lies and lies and lies, and I don't know how else you cover this, but it just, his lies are hitting the light of day in a courtroom where you cannot just lie. You have to have.
Well, I've never understood why. I guess I do understand it for ratings, but I've never understood why the news in America gives Trump a microphone that is connected to a live feed.
Went to a boat company in South Carolina. The boat I said, how is it? He said, it's a problem, sir. They want us to make all electric boats. So I said, let me ask you a question. And he said, nobody ever asked this question. And it must be because of MIT, my relationship to MIT. Very smart. He goes, I say, what would happen if the boat sank from its weight and you're in the boat and you have this tremendously powerful battery and the battery's now underwater and there's a shark that's approximately 10 yards over there. By the way, a lot of shark attacks lately. Do you notice that? A lot of shark. I watched some guys justifying it today. Well, they weren't really that angry. They bit off the young lady's leg because of the fact that they were not hungry, but they misunderstood who she was. These people are crazy. He said there's no problem with sharks. They just didn't really understand a young woman swimming now really got decimated, and other people too. A lot of shark attacks. So I said, so there's a shark 10 yards away from the boat, 10 yards, or here. Do I get electrocuted? Do you feel the breeze? Because I don't want anybody going on me. We need every voter. I don't care about you. I just want your vote. I don't care.
I think there's nothing wrong with having an interview, and there's nothing wrong with capturing the words of a person who is now a former president. But you can always wait and see, you know? I mean, even TikTok has an edit feature. I don't understand why the news doesn't adopt the same idea.
Yes.
You know, just watch it, see if there's anything that's worth reporting to the American people, and then go from there.
That's right. You know, Trevor, CNN the other day, Trevor, just, literally cut back and went, well, obviously none of that was true. I mean, that's one way to do it, to air it and then immediately say none of that was true, or not air it. Do you miss doing the Daily Show?
I mean, it's really wild. I'm actually in Washington, D.C. doing shows right now, and I never thought I would travel to D.C. to get away from the chaos that's affecting America. It's really wild because New York has turned into a full-on circus right now, and America is in a really strange position where, at the same time when everyone's preparing for a presidential race, one of the races might end up in prison. That's a strange place to be in for any country, I think. So, it's been quite a circus to follow.
Well, aside from being hilarious, Trevor, your background is so interesting. Obviously, author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, Born a Crime, Stories from a South African Childhood. One of the things I hear all the time, and I want to get your take on, because I'm sure you do too, is people around the world just cannot believe this. They just keep asking, how is he allowed to run? Why is he not in prison? What do you say to people that you talk to around the world?
Well, the one thing I'll say is this. I know this is going to sound strangely counterintuitive, but in many ways, this is a great example of America working well. Because I don't know many other countries where a former president would be held accountable for anything, So, on the one hand, I see people panicking and saying, like, this is the end of America. And I go like, well, actually, it shows that America is a functioning democracy where, it really is right now showing that nobody is above the law, which is what it's supposed to be. And, how it turns out or how it pans out, nobody knows. But I don't know, in a strange way, you only know that a system is working when you actually put it to the test, right? So how do you know if the elevator brakes work or not until the cable snaps? I guess now we'll find out.
I guess, unless he gets away with it all, then